Jack Knight Winters. This is Jack Frost University, and this is going to be a video in my series entitled The Way of the Sovereign, Steps to Becoming a Secured Party and a Creditor. Today I wanted to talk about jurisdiction, citizenship. So I have this sheet of paper, and this is full of Supreme Court case findings. Supreme Court case findings. So basically where you get these is when issues get taken from the local courts, local inferior Roman courts, and they get escalated all the way up to the Supreme Court, things get pretty intense and pretty serious at that level, right? Because that's the highest court within the District of Columbia, the Supreme Court. So all of this information here and all of these findings are coming from the United States Supreme Court. So, and again, this is, I'm going to be talking about citizenship and jurisdiction here, based on case findings, Supreme Court case findings, okay? So we're talking about citizenship and jurisdiction from the perspective of the Supreme Court, okay? So we'll start with the first one, okay? The United States government. Oh, it's talking about two different citizens here, okay? United States citizens and state citizens. And it's talking about the difference between the two, okay? The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. And I'm not going to read all the references. Was that NY? I guess that's New York. Regarding Merriam 36, NE 505, 141, New York. I'm not going to read all that stuff. That'll take up half the video. So just, but I'll include it in the, you can see it for yourself. So it says right there, the United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state, okay? The next one, this is interesting. A U.S. citizen is not entitled to an Article 3 court, but instead gets an Article 1 court with a plenary jurisdiction. Okay, that means military dictatorship. Jurisdiction and Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Constitution for the United States of America as defined and reinstated in the National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company, which further states that citizens of the District of Columbia are not embraced by the judicial power under Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States of America. The same statement is held in Hepburn versus Dundas. In 1804, the Supreme Court, through Chief Justice Marshall, held that a citizen of the District of Columbia was not a citizen of a state. Again, I'll read that again. In 1804, the Supreme Court, through Chief Justice Marshall, held that a citizen of the District of Columbia was not a citizen of a state. See, there's two different citizenships. Therefore, there's two different jurisdictions. Okay? The one is the United States citizen, where you have no rights. You're just a dumb slave debtor that has to comply with everything and get absolutely no benefits of, too. That's the weird thing. The next one, state citizens are the only ones living under free government whose rights are incapable of impairment by legislation or judicial decision. Twining versus New Jersey. See, state citizens are the only ones living under free government. Okay? Next one, state citizenship is a vested substantial property right, and the state has no power to divest or impair these rights. Favitt versus Kingsbury. Your rights are property rights. Okay, the Bill of Rights and the constitutional rights. Your rights are like property. It's like a car, or a house, or a book. It's a tool. It's a right. It's a possession, and it's more like an intellectual possession. It's not like a tangible possession, but it's a possession. Your rights are possessions, and they cannot be taken away from you. You can waive them. That's why when you go into this fictional Article 1 courtroom, which is military dictatorship, and you try to they don't ask you if you want to give and you make a plea deal, which is always a bad idea. But sometimes if you're in jail, you don't have a choice. You just got to get out of jail. You can't fight anything in jail. So, um, that's why when you take a plea deal in a courtroom, Article 1 courtroom, the fictional courtrooms, they don't ask you, would you like to give away your rights? They ask you, do you want to waive your rights? In order to accept the plea deal, you have to waive your rights. Okay. The next one. The state cannot diminish the rights of the people. Hurtado versus California. Oh, here's a good one. A citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as a co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the PCT, the Public Charitable Trust, the constructive Setke Trust of U.S. Incorporated under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. Now, listen to this. So, look at that. Which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. Those are two different corporations. See? We're all thinking that, it's just one government, and it's a federal government. And then we have state governments. It's not that simple. There's all kinds of stuff going on. All kinds of jurisdictions, all kinds of nationalities, citizenships, all kinds of corporations, but they're all trying to camouflage themselves as being a government. Okay? Here's the next one. Merely being native-born within the territorial boundaries of the United States of America does not make such an inhabitant a citizen of the United States subject to the jurisdiction of the 14th Amendment. Okay? Here's another one. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. United States versus Valentine. So, basically saying the only real right of a United States citizen is that you get to live within the boundaries. But that's so stupid because you can still be a state citizen and live in your same house. You just change citizenship. So really, what this is saying is the only right of a U.S. citizen is to say, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen, and that's the only benefit. Actually, there's benefits, like Medicaid is a benefit. You got free medical care. That's a benefit. That's probably one of the only few real benefits of being a United States citizen. But this is saying that the only real right is really to call yourself a U.S. citizen. Citizenship of the United States does not entitle citizens to privileges and immunities of the citizens of the state, since privileges of one are not the same as the other. Tashiro versus Jordan. Here's another one. There is in our political system a government of each of the several states and a government of the United States. So it's making a distinction. It's saying there's two different parties here, two different systems. There's a government of each of the several states, which is how the forefathers set it up, and then there's a government of the United States. And each is distinct from the other and has citizens of its own. Okay. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. United States versus Thomason, or Thomason versus state. There is a clear distinction between national citizenship and state citizenship. Tashiro versus Jordan again. So here's some more. In the sense of public international law, the several states of the Union are neither foreign to the United States, nor are they foreign to each other, but such is not the case in the field of private international law. You got public international law, and then you got private international law. I'm telling you, there's so many different jurisdictions. What did I want to read here? Here it is. Oh, here's a good one. Almost a century ago, Congress declared that the right of expatriation, including expatriation from the District of Columbia, or U.S. Inc., see what it's saying? This is a Supreme Court case finding. This is a Supreme Court justice speaking in a finding. This is what's called a finding, okay? Almost a century ago, Congress declared the right To expatriate from the District of Columbia, or U.S. Inc., is a natural and inherent right of all people, and decreed that any declaration, instruction, opinion, order, or decision of any officers of this government which denies, restricts, impairs, or questions the right of expatriation is hereby declared inconsistent with the fundamental principles of this government. So it's basically saying that they have to acknowledge your right to expatriate at any time. If you want to, first off, it's making a distinction. It's literally, this is a Supreme Court justice saying the U.S. Inc., U.S. Incorporated. Calling that the District of Columbia. District of Columbia or U.S. Inc. It's the same thing, right? It's calling it the United States Inc. And it's basically saying that any officers of this government, of U.S. Inc., which denies your right to expatriation, is declared inconsistent with the principles of their government. So they're supposed to acknowledge your right to expatriate at any moment, okay? Oh, here's another one. This isn't really a citizenship or jurisdiction issue, but it says the practice of law cannot be licensed by any state. My last video, I told you there's no such thing as a license to practice law. And here's, Schwer versus Board of Examiners. The practice of law cannot be licensed by any state. It can't be licensed. There's no such thing. People are watching like Judge Judy and Law and Order and crap and getting all kinds of stupid shit in their head. And they love this. They love this. They love filling your head with a bunch of fictional crap. So this is just one video. I just wanted to kind of squeeze this out real quick. Alright, later.